and that. The problem is ADA regulations require us to have an 8-foot sidewalk. We only have a 50-foot right-of-way. The city only has a 50-foot right-of-way through there on the property lines. So that leaves some issues to us in the constriction of that and in construction. So the next slide. So this would be the new look. You would have the building again on the left side. I'm going to work left side. You'd have the cantilever bus shelter along the fence line going back. Obviously that tree, because Bowles-Rice doesn't want trees, wouldn't be there. But you'd have a buffer lane, then you'd have a 10-foot travel lane, and then a 10-foot travel lane, and then you have the sidewalk. So basically they're borrowing a little land to the east to widen the sidewalks, and at some points that chokes down to the 2 travel lanes where we have buses on both sides of the road in a very small section of it. It does choke down to 9-foot travel lanes, back to 9-foot travel lanes. So it is depending on where you are, the lane width in the road, and if there's buses on both sides, the lane width does vary. So it kind of gives you a new thing. You can see the design of the lights, the cantilever shelters that we propose, and kind of the amenities there to do that. So that would be the same view in the future. Yes. So again, this is just to show you that the ADA requires 8-foot sidewalks because you have to have the area to be clear, and when you deploy the ramp, you have to be able to still have room to get around the sidewalk, plus room for someone in a wheelchair to maneuver properly. So we want to make sure everything is done in ADA compliance. When we get a little bit farther in the plans, I'll be meeting with an advocate in the community that we've worked with before to review everything, just to make sure that we have got everything, our I's dotted, T's crossed in that regard. So again, this is kind of the shelter we're kind of looking at. Obviously, it's a cantilever type. We don't think we would have the side panel on that. It would have it'd be made out of metal perforated, it'd be solar lit. Above that, kind of shows you how the stop area is designed. The little part that says CODA, those are called lean rails. We will not have benches in our shelters. There'll be lean rails that people can kind of take the weight off, relax, but they won't be full length benches inside the shelters. Again, the sidewalk width and other factors involved kind of force us to go in that direction. Again, this is kind of what we're looking at, some of the wayfinding examples. Again, all of these are picked up from other, but we're kind of looking at the lamps, the short bollard lighting, and then the tall double lamps as kind of do that. They kind of complement what is now on Brawley Walkway between Laidley and Town Center Mall, and that. Bike racks, I think the city is putting some bike racks in the main park, so not quite sure if we're going to be mounting bike racks in our park. I know that we've talked about a lot of different things over the period with that, and those are yet to be decisions made. Next slide. And then this is kind of more for engineering and for us as operation. These are the turning radiuses. We've got 4 different slides to show how egress and exiting the area will be, so you can kind of scroll through these pretty quick. Just to make sure we have our turning radiuses that we can get in and out if a bus is stopped at the crosswalk or at the stop bar. Go ahead. And, we did that on both sides. Of course, right now there's no improvements planned on the Lee Street side, which is what you're looking at now. But these are, again, in the future design work that they're having to make sure that when it is designed, it does have our egress and exit. Okay, next slide. So as part of the master plan, and this actually, by lumping the projects together, this actually saves KRT, especially since Bowles-Rice asked us not to put any live plantings by their building. Anytime you tear up a city area inside that's concrete or hard, when you replace it, you have to have more permeable material to allow water runoff and things like that. And so when we put the whole project together, there's going to be enough grass and all that to relieve any obligation that we would have to create this project, these areas in our area. That's kind of the same thing about stormwater. Go ahead. So this, again, is the big coordination area. The areas in red here are the areas that Thrasher is designing. And this is why we're working together with it to make sure that we all are on the same page moving forward. And that was, again, the purpose of our meeting with the city last week. So with that, Mayor, sorry I took so long talking, but the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman. And Doug, thank you so much. Very quickly, I want to recognize, I believe that Chris Knox is on the line with us as well, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, let me say this to the KRT board. Thank you for keeping critical public transportation downtown. This is essential to the city and certainly our vibrancy. The other thing I wanted to say is, thanks to Doug and his team, your team that we've continued to meet with. Gosh, it feels like 10 years we've been working on this. I say that kind of jokingly, Doug, but really, folks have been working on this for quite some time. As a matter of fact, when we got here and we started to look at plans of Slack Plaza, we said, let's go back and let's take all of the plans and all of the suggestions and all of the public comments and, keeping in mind that there had been other companies that were paid to, give sample designs of the park, including GAI. So we pulled all of those together and started over. And that's been a long time in coming. Again, when we got here, there were lots of projects that we needed to tackle. This was one that we knew needed to be addressed if we were going to grow our downtown and if we were going to start to do what we've already seen happen, which is fill up storefronts and push more businesses downtown. Case in point, because of this project, without question, the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation would not have moved into that building. Lewis Payne, Will Carter, others would not have started the Business Improvement District, which is actually going to happen all the way around this area, and I'm certainly happy to talk about that as well. I'll set it up by saying this. In the first couple of months, I had the pleasure, and of course when we were still traveling, of joining the Mayor's Institute on City Design. Every year they pick a couple of mayors from across the country. They come to our city, they look at what they call the largest problem area or an area that needs developed and designed. And it was overwhelming with the folks who came in. And these are, of course, experts in city design from all over the country, saw Slack Plaza and said, what are you doing? I hope that I can share my screen as well, Todd, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do that now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Sure can.
Okay,
Didn't
great.
realize your IT skills. That's wonderful.
What's that?
Didn't realize your IT skills. This is fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, multi-talented. So I'll go ahead and say this, and especially and again, I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible, but I think this is worth noting, and why this project is so incredibly important is because this is truly city center. That's what this is. That's what Slack Plaza is. It's city center. And that's what I've been referring to it as. We have a lot of culture and a lot of history surrounding the names, Brawley and Slack. And so I think that needs to still be memorialized as that place. But I think that we need to start saying and using this in terms of branding, but it's something that we're working on. But I just wanted to give it because if you look at this, from above, you know, the only green space we have downtown, folks, is at Brick Street, is the old Brick Street lot. You know, technically they say that Haddad is green space. I can promise you it's not a lot of green space. And what we know from experts and city designers from all across the country and the world is a thriving downtown must have it. It must have it. So we're right in the middle of city center. So what are we going to do? What are the current proposed plans? So you heard a little bit about some of the coordination that we're having with KRT and the leadership team here. So I'll start, I'd actually like to start on Summers. You know, I never understood why we did Brawley Walkway both ends and stopped and didn't work on that center piece. But I'm kind of glad that we didn't, because now we have a great opportunity to take our time and do it right. This is going to be for the city a multi-million-dollar expenditure. And so we've been taking our time and we want to do it right. So as you enter into the park, there's really only a couple of reasons why you go to Slack Plaza, right? You go there from point A to get from point A to point B, right? Right now you have to snake and twist and walk around a water fountain that hasn't been in operation for 15 years. I got that confirmed. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. So it's point A to point B. The other reason why you're there is because you're going to get off of the bus or going to get on the bus, or there is some activity or something that's happening in Slack Plaza. That hasn't happened, again, in about 15 years. There's no programming, there's no development, and there also has not been a brick replaced in Slack Plaza in the past 12 years. The only thing that we've done since we've been there was begin these plans, dust off the old books that people had, and we took out the spike rails, which discouraged people from sitting down, which I can get into the philosophy of, and when our designers from across the country came in, they said, you actually do that here in the city? Gosh, gee whiz. So entering into the park from Summer Street, I'll talk about what these look like, two big pillars and stones. I want to let you know that these are no longer going to be here. I'm going to show you how we're going to make a, quote, entrance to the park, because this is what we want folks to see as the entrance to the park. We know that people will be coming down Laidley on sidewalks to get to the park, but we're going to try to make this, of course, the, quote, grand entrance. You'll see all the way down the walk these lights that are throughout both sides of the walkway. In a couple of slides, I'll show you the design of that light. The light will show across the green space and will also push light onto the walkway. To say that this entire area is going to be lit up like the sun is the understatement of the year. So a couple of things that we wanted to do, very much like the Coliseum and Convention Center, and my challenge is with that, is you build something, people say, with all due respect to Kevin Costner, build it and they'll come. That's not true. They come because there's programming, because there's safe and clean and viable space, vibrant space. And so over here, you'll see a stage area. It's by the People's Building. This is the People's Building here, if you can picture that in your mind. These will be all very low level plantings that are easy to maintain for our team members, but green space for sure still. This will have a ton of lighting throughout. There's going to be a canopy over the stage, and these little blue elements are called bubblers. And what bubblers are, in another slide I'll show you, is that there are water features that if and when they break, because as Chris Knox will tell you, everyone loves a water feature in a park. They absolutely will break. They will freeze, they will stop working. But bubblers, the effect that it has, unlike, ponds that we have over there now, are when they break, it doesn't impact the visual of the park. So bubblers there, green space. See these lines going through? Pay no attention to those. I'll explain in the next slide why those are here. But plenty of green space. If you look over in this area, that's where the police station is. By the way, that is where some of the police officers will still be, but this will also be considered a park and rec. We are adding another park to the park and rec's agenda. When we got here, there were 38 buildings that we have in the city. We certainly don't want to continue to add without maintenance plans and robust plans. But this one, we believe, must still serve as a park police station in and out, but more important, a park and recs where people can come, our team can freshen up, check in, and help with some of the programming that's going to happen in the park. There'll be steps up to this area. There are cafe tables here, crushed limestone all throughout, all the way around. These are high top trees, so please understand that the visual line, the line of sight, will go all the way through the park. What you'll see here are very large, with bars in the middle, swings, open bench swings. Now, folks say, well, that's just, Amy, if you do that, that's just a place for people to lie down. They're comfortable swings, but they're not comfortable enough that you want to stay there all day on them. They'll have bars in between. There won't be 3 on this side. We've cut that down to 2 and 2 on this side. Lots of shaded area, which is always a challenge for folks, but a comfortable area. On this side, and the last thing before I get to the next slide, you'll see some greenery that's up on a large wall here. This wall will kind of shield from the parking lot over here, folks. And it'll be a live wall, which we can talk about here in a little bit. Let me just go ahead and mention this area because the chairman brought it up. We too have concerns about that as well, Mr. Chairman. But what we said to Doug is we think it is a great opportunity to work some of our small seating, a small live wall over here, which we believe will be in the line of sight of your window. So flowerings, plantings, some chairs and some taller trees is what we believe, and maybe a bench or so is what you'll see. That is our hope. We understand that we will have and need areas to get in and out with our equipment, but we are cognizant of the fact that, like you, we want this to be visually pleasing at all angles of your building and throughout the entire park. Restrooms are important. We have a choice to do many things in life. We certainly don't have a choice if we want to go to the bathroom or not. We can get into the philosophy of more bathrooms, I believe, is going to be a good thing, not a bad thing. And we'll have team members also helping with that. Obviously, another part of the safety concern for us is making sure we can have people go all the way through to the mall, to the Coliseum and Convention Center. With that programming, you'll see here, we have a corporation that's going to be hosting a bike share program with us there. That'll be part of our programming as well. Any questions or comments as I'm rattling on, everybody?
No,
Am I missing anything, Doc?
Go ahead, Todd.
I was just saying, I really appreciate the explanation and the visuals here because this is helpful to kind of see how it's all going to come together.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, there are going to be tweaks, make no mistake about it, right? There are going to be things that we've already gone back and said, a live wall is beautiful, but a live wall with dead flowers or dead plantings is not beautiful. So, we're as you well know, probably better than anybody on the phone, city resources, municipal government have limited funds, right? And team members that have to cut a lot of grass. And Doug, I will let you know, as I let your board members know, we went back and forth on real grass, turf. And the decision was made at the end of the day, and Doug, we went through sample after sample of turf. There is just no substitute. It's like getting, generic ketchup or mayonnaise. There's just no substitute. You just can't, you almost can't do it. And I'll show you why in this next slide if folks want me to move on.
There, one thing I do want to point. First of all,
Sure.
I'm glad that it's going to be grass because, I've had a lot of experience with turf through soccer and things like that. Love it, but it just make it unbearable during our hot August days for people to be any programming to happen. I would point out to the board, and the mayor mentioned that there will be tweaks. This design was done before Thrasher knew the bathrooms were going to be accessed by the side of our building. So that landscaping and all those benches in front of that area is being tweaked in the new design. That area there
This here
is being tweaked design because that's where their access. We want to make sure that area is nice, open, public access, and safe.
And we don't want people loitering around that area. If someone wants to go in and use the restroom and come out, I don't want people standing there in front of a restroom. Let me also mention in the stage area, folks, we're going to have a big movie screen off of the People's Building. So when we have family movie night, etc. Mr. Chairman, can I move to the next slide?
Sure thing.
Okay, great. So the other thing that we talked about, and when the Mayor's Institute on City Design, they were so gracious to fly me out to Albuquerque, New Mexico last year to meet with the team of designers. And one of the big things, and we're not talking about it a lot here, but I want to reiterate the powerful impact of programming and making parks and beautiful spaces year round. That's why in the wintertime, we also intend to, and has been included in the part of our budget, is to make this a place for an ice skating rink. So we've worked with companies across the country looking at what makes a downtown viable. Well, there's a reason why we have Restaurant Week, y'all, in February. It's because after the holidays, downtown and businesses, you can see the revenues go down. What we have learned through looking at city budgets across the country, people still come down if they have the #1 travel motivator, and that means traveling from Kanawha City downtown or from Charlottesville or wherever to come here is lots of things to see and do. That's the #1 travel motivator. That's why you come downtown. You don't normally just come downtown for one reason, right? You come downtown to watch a movie or to get something to eat or go have drinks with friends. And so we know that to make this park safe and viable and vibrant, we have to have continued programming. For the first year, as I presented this to the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation yesterday, they asked me if we were going to, actually rent skates. And the thing about this park, and with all municipalities across the country, and especially ours, we don't make any money off of park and recs. That's not the way city governments, we believe, even should run. We want healthy communities. And we're going to give as many opportunities as we can for folks to get outside and play. For now, we're going to be, and it's within our budget, purchasing the ability to rent skates, but keeping in mind that that's a touch and go issue with us. But we're going to be doing it. I am a hockey mom, so I have unfortunately or fortunately spent many a day and night around an ice skating rink, so I know of all the trouble they can bring. But I know and have talked to many mayors who host them. We have enough electricity and lighting to do food trucks here. We have space for what we believe are 8 food trucks within this space. So we're really excited about that opportunity to make this year round. We have talked to the fire department about heated spaces within this park as well. Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to show you this column here as the entrance of the walkway to say we hate it. That was part of the design. That was, everything that was brought to us, we all didn't just love. We even brought this out to, the public and said, what do you think? Sometimes designers have a, I don't want to say just add water and stir, but when you think of an entrance of the park, they presented this, universally we all said, I don't know. It's, number one, I've always been, and I think most people thought, the lonely Charleston tree, I'm not sure that really represents who we are. So I give this slide to you as to say, this is not happening. But these are the lights, which I thought you guys would appreciate seeing. And we're also going to have what I call party lights. I'm sure there's a much more appropriate term for these lights that will be swung across the middle. Again, lit up like the sun. More light on the walkway, more light on the grass. Very quickly, moving on. There are the bubblers that I was talking about. We're going to have lots of leaning spaces. These wood leaners for folks. So sitting is going to be encouraged, but when you're waiting for somebody, necessarily you don't need to sit down always. You can lean on the People's Building. The staging canopy will be here. There'll be a movie screen here. We might even extend the movie screen over, and then there are thoughts of doing a mural there. Very quickly to end, before I show you one last thing, this is a live wall and doesn't look absolutely gorgeous. But our problem with some of the planners and city designers it looks great if you have a full-time team member working on that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what do live walls look like when there's nothing in them? So we're still really troubleshooting that, to be honest with you. I can't have dead flowers in a wall. So we're still working with that, and we're working with local garden clubs to see if we could get some just some assistance and some guidance on that. There are the swings. They'll have charging stations to them as well. Keeping in mind, we're keeping the theme of other things. Very quickly, the last thing that I'll show you is this. So this is a discussion that hasn't been finalized, but we're having. We know this from studying cities all across the country. Art drives people. And if you don't believe me, I bet you somebody in your family or your friends have gone to Elk City to get their picture taken in front of chalk angel wings. You've seen them. I know you have. It's the thing that people actually come off the interstate to have. These are 16-foot sculptures that enter in a park in Florida. They're in Pittsburgh. They're funky and cool and neat. And we have a donor that is looking to work with us on developing an Appalachian theme, but very similar to this, kind of a nod to our culture. It's the home of Mountain Stage. And our team felt it was much more appropriate to have something that would pull people downtown to bring them there. There's a little dog you can see on the outside. Yes, it's funky and weird and fun, and just like the Hallelujah statue or the sculpture at the Clay Center, some people will love it and some people will hate it. But it's a discussion that we're having with the public right now to say, how does that hit you? We don't want to just do a just add water and stir as an entrance point. So anyways, I just give that to you. If there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to answer them.
Well,
I'm just, Mayor, that I appreciate you placing significance on this project, because this board has spent several years trying to pull enough resources together to be prepared to be part of the discussion. And you and Doug and your transition team, even before you took office, took the time to meet with us, knowing that this was an important project. So it's taken time to get to the point, but it's been time that's been well spent, and the outcome should be excellent.
Yeah. And this
That's our
Eric,
hope,
I just
Mr.
appreciate the thought and everything, the thought that's been put into this, because it's not something that just fly by night and rubber stamped. And I appreciate everyone taking the time and really trying to make this thing a point of interest where people want to come.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
To jump in, Mayor. So let's talk a little bit about timeline. I know we mentioned it. We're hoping that the mayor, after our meeting last week, I think gave some orders, marching orders to her team, and we're hoping that we will have
In a nice way, Doug. You're making me seem like, come on.
We're hoping that we're going to be able to have everything finalized on our end in December. It's an aggressive timeline. Ideally, go out to bid in January, award in February or shortly after that, and start turning dirt in March. There's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place for us to meet that aggressive timetable, but that's what we're shooting for. We're in constant contact with our partners. We talk basically almost daily with our design team, trying to keep updated of where we're going. I know that Jonathan and I have become email and phone buddies. Jonathan Storage with the city, talking out, and we're going to have to get together early next week and have a meeting to talk on some of the questions that we have with the lease. There is one other meeting that I need to have and that's with Dino Stanley, and Bowles Rice is facilitating setting that up to talk about one little area of property outside his fence line, a 2 feet section that has a planting bed in it that doesn't look like it's been maintained for a long time. We would like to make that just pave it into part of our sidewalk process. We don't think there's a problem there, but we've yet to have that meeting. So the AEP issue, that, and the lease are really the only hurdles holding us up. And then obviously making sure that our design teams, both for the city and for KRT, keep their eyes on the prize and get where we want to be sooner. I know the mayor and I, we'd love to be already turning dirt, but there's still a few decisions to do that. And also, Mayor, I want to thank you yesterday at your press conference at the Charleston Convention Bureau Center about announcing the small business thing. You were wearing your KRT mask, by the way. I don't know if you realized you had it.
Yes, I was. Oh my gosh, they're the best masks ever. I want another one.
Well,
they're so
I'll
awesome.
make sure you get some, and I do appreciate the publicity when I was watching the news and actually watching
every day. I've got it right here. Let me just, and before I leave you, and if I may, and I'm sorry to keep belaboring the point, but I want folks to understand that, or your board member, Mr. Chairman, to understand that while we're pushing this through, keeping in mind that we have spent so much time and so much energy, and the work is not done because it's not a park. It's not just a focal point. It is economic development. We are, getting calls every day for businesses looking to downtown. There's new housing development downtown now. And when they say, what are you going to do with this park? What are you going to do with that place there? Trust me when I say there's more economic development happening, more businesses moving in, and more apartments being built because they have the information that they need, that this park will be thriving and robust. So it's not just a park for us in the city, it is a true economic driver. And thanks again for your time, everybody. I really appreciate it.
That's wonderful. Thank you for setting some time aside for us. We really appreciate it.
And just one other thing.
Thank you so much.
With the city art department on our art project, which we'll get into later in our art bus project, which we're going to have a public unveiling tomorrow on Capitol Street. And I believe the mayor has tentatively got it on her schedule to be there. And we're hoping.
I will be there.
And but we'll get into that here in a little bit. And we're excited about that. We've been working with the City of Charleston Public Art Department Festival and all that. And that's an agenda item we'll get into. But again, Mayor, thank you for everything. Thank you for taking my texts and my emails and my calls when I call you, and we'll get this done, and we'll get it. It'll be a great thing for the city of Charleston.
Thank you so much, everyone. And just so you have it, if everybody has a pen in their hand, if you ever need me for anything, Slack Plaza, City Center related or not, my cell phone is 304-549-2814, 304-549-2814, because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to hang up, Mr. Chairman, and somebody's going to say, I wish I would have told her this, or did she check on this? And so you have the opportunity to text me or call me at any time. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You. So that was very thorough, wonderful conversation about the big project that's been going on for a long time. Those board members that have been around for a long time are well aware of the length that it's taken to get to this point. But I'm going to move on the agenda back to item number 2, get back in order, try to build up a little momentum and blast through some of these next items. So Scott Menifee, if you can do the financial statements.
Nothing really out of the ordinary with everything, but we can run through there. If you're going to look on Schedule 2, the statement of revenue and expenses. For September, the operating revenue was the $127,212. And the operating expenses, the $1,026,689. Year to date for the 3 months comparison there on Schedule 3, operating revenues of the $384.60 compared to the previous year's $559,588, and on the operating expenses, $3,177,807 compared to $2,981,526. Again, expenses mostly up there with labor, and obviously the revenue down on the passenger, the fares. Schedule 4, the 4-week moving totals, still in the 30s there for a decrease from the previous year. Actual count on 4B there on the fare box revenue, 16, 17, 18,000. You know, in the past, we're typically 24, 27,000 a week. Total numbers there on 4C for September, 84,280 compared to the previous year's 135,360, 51,000 decrease, 37%. Statistical analysis, same thing. Average a day, 3211 compared to 5391. And for the month, 81,534 compared to the 133,061. And a bit of bright news, I guess, there on Schedule 6. Still with the levy receipts, we got a lot of the smaller numbers in that typically don't hit all in that same month of October. So for October, you know, we're still at a 3.48% increase from where we were last year. And kind of a brief summary there, but that's the financials. Anybody have any questions?
If I don't hear any questions, so those financial statements will be made part of the meeting minutes for future reference. And we're going to move on to item 3, Doug, on the vehicle purchase.
Real quick, I told you last month that we were needing to replace a vehicle. We got real lucky. A vehicle was available on the state contract that another agency had ordered and then declined because of funding, I guess, because of COVID. So we were able to actually secure that vehicle. It is now here on property. So I just need a motion now to approve that. Since it wasn't budgeted, I did inform the board last month that we were going to be buying a vehicle. But if you could just approve that invoice for $28,321 to Thornhill Group.
I move the motion be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Koval. Is there a second? I need a second.
A second.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Koval and I think a second by Valerie. Any further discussion about the vehicle? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, but moving into old business, items A, B, and C, the only really thing is we actually did have a charter last month, the first time since February. So we did do one charter last month, so I'm going to skip those. There's really nothing to report out of the ordinary. You have copies of those reports in your packet. we've done the Transmall update. Real quickly, the festival, Charleston Art Bus project. As you know, last year you guys approved participating in a project with, at the time, Festival, KRT. Since then, the University of Charleston came on as an additional sponsor, and the City of Charleston Public Art Department. I emailed you guys and sent you guys copies of the pictures of the bus by Blake Wheeler. Need to change that. It says Bruce Miller, but it's Blake Wheeler was the artist's name. But we're going to actually do a public unveiling. They closed the streets on Capitol Street for dining on Fridays, and those. So we'll be moving that bus onto Capitol Street about 7:30 tomorrow morning. It will sit there during the day, and then at 4:30, WOWK plus some other media partners are going to televise a dedication ceremony where the artist will be there. KRT, the mayor is attending. I've invited the Kanawha County Commission. I have not heard from them. I will be checking with them today again to do that. But you can slide through the pictures if you like. You know, it's called Hiking the High Trail, or there's a title. It's about a person hiking with his dog overlooking the mountains of West Virginia with both a night scene and a day scene. So that we're real pleased with the outcome. We think it looks great. I will tell you that since this picture was taken, the wheels have been painted black. It even looks even better on the bus. So we're excited about that, and I know we've run long, so I won't spend a lot of time talking to you. But we contributed $1,500, which you had budgeted for, and then we've also included that money in next year's budget. And the idea is that next year during Festival, we'll have another contest, and the members will vote. They voted in June. This was a winner, and then in Festival, the new bus will be dedicated. So we'll have another art bus next year going in. And it looks like a fun project. It looks like we think it's a good add to the city. And again, Charleston has a lot of public art, and we're excited about being part of the project. With that, let's jump into COVID-19 updates. As Scott has told you, ridership is still down over 30% from previous levels. We have hired 8 or 9 new drivers. We have 4 in training right now. We've had several drivers not come back to work from the COVID process. We had a couple other drivers have some health problems that will not be returning to work. We are still short drivers, but we've maxed out our budgeted amount of drivers. So we hope, and I notified the union yesterday, that we will return to more than the Saturday service in December. We won't be back at full service probably until February, but we'll be pretty close to full service come by the second week of, or by the first weekend of December at the latest. We still have some contractual things we have to do with the union to make sure all that happens, and we're working on that. The other issue is, I've been informed, I've talked to the other transit properties in the state, TTA, Morgantown, and another transit property have all extended their pandemic pay through December 31st or the end of the state of emergency declared by the governor. We've been doing that on a monthly basis. We could continue to do that on a monthly basis, but I will let you know that TTA and other properties in the state that are represented by our union have approved that to December 31st or the end of the governor declared emergency, which comes first. So we will have to have a motion if we want to continue that pay. It is $4 an hour in addition to their normal rate, and so that is something that the board will have to take action one way or the other, or that pay will expire on October 31st.
I move we continue the pay.
I second it.
And
Okay, so motion by Koval, second by Hicks.
is that for 1 month or to December 31st?
Through December 31st.
Mr. Koval, will you amend your motion?
Amend it to December 31st.
I second it.
Okay, so motion by Koval and a second by Hicks to extend the $4 per hour pay until December 31st, 2020. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, under new business, the last item that before we relinquish control of the meeting to Jackson Kelly will be the fuel contract discussion. You guys asked us to look into the fuel contract. We've been monitoring the fuel usage. We're gonna come up short. We entered into a contract, we entered into a 2-year contract last November where we had to spend in diesel fuel 500,000 gallons of fuel plus or minus 10%, of gasoline 700,000 gallons of gasoline plus or minus 10%. I can tell you that we're okay on the gasoline side. It's not an issue, but we are going to be short in our gallons for diesel. Under the terms of the contract, we have to send them a check for however many gallons we do not use at the end of the first year. That amount is between $80,000 and $90,000. And this is all due to COVID and the reduced service levels. We just haven't burned the diesel, and we're really the only ones under our contract that burn diesel. We don't send a lot out. The gasoline, we use very little. We only use about 50,000 gallons of the gasoline out of the 700,000 gallons. Those are the other agencies. So we've been working, Clyde has been working with our supplier, Colonial Oil, to see what options were available to us. I can tell you that we've heard several different stories. The versions has changed. It's changed as late as 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We were misled or misinformed on the process. They were willing to extend the contract, and first they said they'll immediately lower the price for year 2 by 20-some cents a gallon, because right now fuel is really cheap. So we're paying a premium for fuel by locking in. So we decided, okay, how much fuel are we going to burn? Where are we going to be? What can we do? The city of Charleston has a contract with a separate provider, and their contract, they are on schedule to meet their needs. But again, if we tried to sell them some of our fuel, it would be at the Opus price. They're not going to pay because they've got a contract, and once we meet our contract, the minimum number of gallons, when the fuel's cheaper, we buy off the market so that we are saving money. Obviously, if fuel was more expensive, we try to buy as much as we can over our allocation. Obviously, COVID put us in behind the 8 ball on this, and it kind of led us to different discussions. I put this on the agenda because we were going to talk about renewing or extending the contract by either 1 or 2 years, but they wouldn't reduce the amount until year 3. They originally told us they would reduce the amount from 500,000 gallons of diesel to 450, and then plus or minus 10%. When we go through all the permeations with Colonial, and based on where fuel cost is now, it really doesn't advantage us to extend the contract. Plus, on the other side, on the gasoline side, they're requiring us to extend not just the diesel, but the gasoline side. That means we're committing all these other agencies, 55 county and city agencies, to another year of fuel at current prices or at a reduced price. It was about 20 cents. Gasoline, I think, was only 20 cents cheaper. So we don't know if they're going to commit to the program in year 3. So again, if the fuel costs us next fall when we go to bid again, if fuel prices are still down, we're going to get those savings now. So I've reached out. I talked to TTA last night in Huntington. They're paying Opus price, which is $1. Let's just say it's $1.25 today. I'm guessing, I haven't looked at today's number, but it's around between $1.25 and $1.30. They're paying that plus 1.5 cents for delivery. They didn't buy fuel like we did in bulk. They played the market, and but they have already met their minimum number of fuel gallons to be delivered. So they fulfilled their contract with their fuel supplier. Last night, Paul Davis, the TTA manager, who TTA has been part of our fuel program before. Let me just say, for cars, when they're here on business, they can fill up their tanks here. We bill them for fuel, so they meet all the qualifications to participate in our program. I reached out to them and said, hey, if I sell you fuel at a discount of 4 cents off Opus, which saves them 5 cents, would you buy fuel from us for the rest of this year till the end of the contract? They are willing to do that. What would happen is we would have Colonial, our supplier, deliver fuel here, which they have to do under our contract. They're willing to add another delivery place if we extend, but it's not worth extending just for a 6-week period to get that delivery. We would have our people that deliver fuel, like when they take fuel to other agencies, to fill their tanks, would come here, fill up a tank, take it to Huntington, dump it off, then we'd immediately refill our tanks from Colonial. So basically, we get a 2-for-1 pot. For every gallon we send to Huntington, we then get to refill our gallons, and it will help us meet the 40,000 gallon shortfall that we're projecting. So I don't need board authority to do that, other than the fact I think you need to authorize the executive committee or the fuel task force to be able to make decisions in the fueling program that would minimize any potential loss to KRT in this contract. So if I sell it to, or if we sell it to TTA, instead of losing $1.98 a gallon, we're going to lose about 75 cents a gallon because we're selling it to them for $1.25, and then we have to absorb the transportation cost to get that. So we're minimizing our loss by 1/3, plus we're using up more gallons, which maybe we get to where we're not having any shortfall anyway. So I can't guarantee you there won't be a shortfall at the end of November 29th, 5th, what's the date? 25th? 25th. That's when our contract expires. But any fuel that we did not use under 450,000 gallons of diesel on November 25th, we got to write a check for it, and we do not get the fuel. We're just writing them the check. And then we start.
So Doug, you said you all don't need a motion to do this. What do you need in order for you all to go ahead as your executive team to make the decision or have the authority to go ahead and make that decision and get it done?
I just need approval to, I think and Todd, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the motion should be that you either authorize me or the executive committee to make that decision, if we can work it out, which I think we have, to sell fuel at a discounted Opus price to other agencies to absorb having to pay $2 a gallon, rounding off, for fuel we're not going to get.
So we'd like to make a motion that you, in conjunction with the executive committee, can make the decision to sell fuel at to other agencies, however you all deem necessary, to ensure to minimize the loss of revenue to the KRT authority. That's my motion.
Is there a second to Eric's motion?
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, just to let you know, all this clears with purchasing, with guidelines. We don't have to go to FDA to do this. The fuel was procured. We're still honoring our contract with our supplier. We don't obligate anybody else to any more gallons of fuel, and we don't have to do anything in the purchasing end. Is that correct, Clyde? Okay, that's correct.
And just so I know, Clyde, have you been the one that's corresponded with Colonial about this?
Yes.
And they offered to do this extension, but if we don't take that option, will there be an issue with them transporting that fuel somewhere else?
If we don't take the option to extend, you mean?
Correct.
Okay. If we don't take the option to extend, everything else would just be business as usual.
And we can dictate that it's transported to a different destination?
Yes, we can. However, there may be a price increase when I talked to him yesterday, he discussed that the mileage between sites would determine, you know, how much fuel it would cost us to do that. So I think that'll be factored in.
So we'll get a surcharge on delivery, but which we've agreed to absorb as part of the deal with TTA.
Correct.
Okay.
One other thing is we can either, I'm not sure, Clyde, if Colonial's agreed to deliver it somewhere else if we don't extend. I was unclear on what you gave me. If Colonial will drop it straight there, that saves us the hassle of bringing it here. But that doesn't, while it uses up fuel, it doesn't free up tank space in our tank where we get the extra bonus. So it might be better for us to empty our tanks with fuel to them. And if a Colonial deal, we just have to figure out the logistic, which way we use the most gallons and things like that.
Okay.
Hey, I have a quick question. How many gallons does a fuel tanker hold? The trucks that you see out the kind of roundish ones. How many gallons of fuel does one of those hold?
Well, it varies because of the weight. Diesel fuel is heavier than gasoline, so diesel fuel, they could carry about 7,500 gallons in one of those tankers, where with gasoline they carry about 85 or 8,300 gallons of gasoline in one of those tankers. So the same size tanker carries different number of gallons because of the density of the product, the weight of the product. But basically you're looking
Appreciate
at
that,
7,500
Good.
gallons every tanker truck.
Okay. Good. I've been curious about that. I'm glad you were able to shed some light on it. Thanks.
So there's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion about the concept of this process and the fact that the executive committee will work with the administration to execute it? I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is on the agenda is our
Well, we're going to
Everybody-
step out and Tammy with Jackson Kelly. Now, will you take back hosting of the meeting? They did? Okay, they have control of the meeting, so everyone here will be leaving the room and we'll be logging off on our end. Just text me when you guys come back.
You've
into
gone
session.
dark. I can't hear you.
Okay, good. We're good. All right. But I can
I
hear
think
you.
they've already left.
We need
Well,
to
let
check
me
this.
just finish, because we're still in public session, even though
Right.
the control relinquished to Beth. Is there anything else you need to add, Doug?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can now.
We're going to shut down in here. Just tell us, text me, or when you guys go back into session so that we can
Okay.
reopen up the meeting.
That's fine.
All right. Right.
Executive session. So first things first is that there's a personnel issue. That's sensitive. The board has addressed those in the past, and it's appropriate that we have an opportunity to discuss it with our legal counsel. To do so, I suggest that we utilize an executive session. Is there someone that's willing to make a motion to use that format so that we can continue?
I move we go into executive concession.
I second.
Okay, I heard a motion by Koval and I think a second by Arthur. Any discussion regarding executive session?
Just to
All
my
those in-
staff, if I may, just to my staff, everyone from KRT, when they vote to go into executive session, please log off your computers.
Okay, and so that the public will be aware that this session is going to be controlled by legal counsel, and they will dictate who's admitted into the executive session. I can't remember if we voted. Did we vote on that?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Beth, it's up to you to execute the IT.
One quick housekeeping matter. I just want to confirm that the phone number on here, that it's 304-610-2728. Is that you, Mr. Tolliver?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. All right. I will start the breakout room. Just bear with me one moment.
I don't want to be able to hear.
Also, Larry Bailey and I
to walk across.
Okay.
So if you guys would bear with us for a few minutes.
That sounds good. We have everyone that was in the executive session is now back in the open meeting. So that part is done.
Put up the big screen so I can see all the people. Can you put the gallery view so I can see you all? Sorry it's taking so long, but they got to walk across the street or call in, so.
No problem.
That's Tom. Oh, you got Tom first, though. I think. So who just dialed in from a KRT number?
That was me, Clyde.
Okay. Clyde. And Jamie, are you on?
I don't think so.
Okay, I thought I saw a cell phone pop up a minute ago. Jamie, are you on?
Yes, I am.
All right, so it's just Chris Baldwin is the only one left of our staff that was here. So, and he might be dealing with something. He had a medical appointment, so he may not be joining us at noon. So, if you want to talk, I think you've got in the conference room. You've got Jacob, Travis, Scott, and Mick Piet and myself.
Okay. So the board spent some time in executive session to discuss an investigation with legal counsel and remind the public that no motions were made, no decisions were made during that process. Are there any further discussion regarding the executive session from the board members? Are there any motions relative to the report? Are there any board members that'd like to make a motion relative to the findings in the investigation report? Okay, so as I recall, the discussion was that we'd like to have the executive committee work with affected employees regarding the findings, a summary of the findings from the investigation report. Do any other board members recall?
Hey, Todd, this is Dave Caseball. We'll just put that in the form of a motion.
Okay.
I'm
so
sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, so Mayor Caseball
Okay.
has made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think that was a second by Manfred. And just, I'll kind of summarize since it's been a little herky-jerky here. So the motion, as I understand it, it was starting to state, will be for the executive committee to work to relay a summary of the findings of an employment investigation report that was shared with the board as confidential attorney-client work product with affected employees within the near future, within the next week. So that is the motion. Mayor, does that sound correct? Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion by board members regarding the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining, Todd. This is Valerie.
Thanks for recalling or pointing that out. So Valerie is abstaining, and I didn't hear any opposed. Motion carries. We're at the end of the agenda. Do we have any calling or email questions, Doug?
No, we had just one comment. When the mayor gave out her cell phone number, somebody said we did actually mute it the second time, and they asked why no sound. So that was the only comment that we received during the meeting.
Did we mute that intentionally?
The second time, yes, just because it was her personal cell phone number, but she gave it out in the meeting. It's out in the meeting record.
Okay. I mean, I don't know why we would need to conceal that.
Well, somebody thought, oh my gosh, she's giving out her cell phone number. And hit the mute button. But it is on the record. It is in the meeting. She gave it 2 different times. One time it was muted. One time it wasn't.
Okay. Well, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved by Eric.
Second.
Motion by Eric, second by Holmes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all for a lengthy participation in an important board meeting. Everybody have a great day.